Hello everyone, welcome to you to OULGOUT online classroom. So today we are going to deal with a very important lesson, which is passive voice. Today we're going to see exactly and discover how to transform a sentence from the active voice or the active form to passive voice. And to start with, we have first of all, the first thing that we have to learn is the active to passive requirement. Active to passive requirements. There are certain requirements that you need to bear in mind when you want to transform a certain sentence from active to passive. What are the things that I should know? The things that I should learn before that, right? And number two is we're going simply to discover the steps of transforming a sentence from active to passive. What are the steps I have to follow in order to make or to put this transformation into practice? Okay, so let us start right now with step number one. What are some of the requirements or the basic requirements I need to know and learn as far as active to passive transformation is concerned? What I have to know is number one is the parts of speech. I must know the basic parts of speech in English. The basic parts of speech in English are clear. Your subjects, okay? Then you've got the verb. Then you have the objects. It's very important to have these three basic parts of speech, and that is why English is called a nisbah language. It starts with the subjects and then a verb and then an object in the normal, in ordinary or normal sentence. Great. So if you have any other element, any other word apart from this element, this means it is not going to be changed. It is going to be as it is, right? Okay, you just keep it as it is without any change. So what matters right now in this transformation is the object. You must have an object, which means that the verb must be transitive. The verb must be transitive. It means it must have an object so that it can have this transformation can be possible. And then you must have a subject. Subjects in certain sentences, for instance, like an imperative sentence, might be implied. You mean, right? It may not, right, be visible for you, right? So the sentence, however, can be transformed into the passive. And the second requirement right now is what we call the tenses above, right? We have got the tenses. You have to learn the tenses in English. Tenses in English, we have three basic tenses in English: present, past, and then you've got the future. And each tense can be broken down into at least four, let's say, four other categories. We've got simple tenses, we've got continuous or progressive tenses, and we've got perfect tenses, and we've got progressive perfect tenses. So you have to learn the tenses, the form of each tense in English. And then the third step that you have to bear in mind is you have to learn, it's very important to learn what we call irregular verbs, because in the passive, in most of the time, in all the, let's say, the difference, in all the situations in a way, you will have to learn the past participle of any verb, be it regular or irregular. Well, past participle, just to have an idea. Well, the past participle regular verbs, you just add, let's say, d add ed, as I say, sorry, and sometimes, or let's say d, sometimes you can just add a d, right? And sometimes you add, let's say, ied. Sometimes you have to eliminate y and then add ied. I give you an example here. We add ed, right? Add ed basically for verbs ending in consonants, right? For any verb ending in a consonant, you have to add, let's say, ed. If of course this is for regular, remember that this is the rule for regular verbs. Now for the verbs ending right now in right, for verbs ending in e, verbs ending in e, you just had, right, you need just to add, let's say, d, simply d. I give you an example. We say, for instance, like, yes, like. This is a verb ending in e. So for the past simple past or past participle, we simply add d, right? We simply add d because it is already ending in e, right? Just for example, for a d here, we can just say, for instance, we say, I don't know, right? To chop, right? To chop. Well, let's take a very simple example. We say, yes, start. This is a verb ending in t. T is a consonant. So here in this situation, we can just add ed at the end, right? You just add ed at the end. Great, very good. Let's move on right now for ied right now. Well, as I said here right now, for let's say the verbs ending right in ed, you can just say you add ed at the end, right? For verbs ending in a consonant, right? Like t, d, etc. Right? And then we say started. And then for verbs ending in e, you simply add ed, right? And then for verbs ending in y, right? Ending in y, preceded by a consonant. Here in this situation, you simply eliminate, right? Let's take an example. Say for instance study, right? This is an example. This is a verb ending in y preceded by, let's say, a consonant. A d is a consonant. So what we do right now for simple past and past participle, we simply eliminate y and then we add ied, right? And then we say studied. Great. So this is, let's say, for the past participle of regular verbs. Remember, this is just for regular verbs. Now for the verbs which are irregular verbs, sorry, the rule of past participle should be learned. When I say past participle, it means the third part, let's say, column in the list. You've got the verb base and then simple past and then past participles. So the third part should be learned, and you have to go back to the list, right, of regular verbs. This is very important, and you have to sacrifice some of your time to learn these irregular verbs by heart. You have to learn them. It's very important because you might know, let's say, the rule how to transform a sentence from active to passive. But if you have an irregular verb, you will have to, let's say, supply the correct form. Otherwise, your answer will be considered incorrect. Good. So where are we right now? Yes, we have been talking about the tenses, irregular verbs, and so on. Yeah, these are just the requirements, as we say. These are the main requirements of transforming a sentence from passive to active. As we said, let's remind us of what we did. So we say that active to passive requirements, we got the parts. Number one, you have to know the parts of speech. The first thing you have to do when I'm given a sentence to be transformed into the passive, you have to determine, let's say, the parts of speech. Basically, the subjects, the verb, and then objects. And then number two, I have to learn. I have to learn the tenses, the forms of tenses. Don't worry, let's say, about the uses of tenses at this time, because this exercise or this lesson has to do with the mechanics and the transformation. So you don't have to worry about the uses or the function of each tense. And then number three, you have to learn the irregular verbs by heart. Okay, good. Now if you have right now understood this, okay, let us move right now ahead to number two and deal with the, let's say, the steps right now that I have to follow to transform a sentence from active to passive. Okay, what are the steps, okay, that I have to go through? Let's give an example of a sentence in the active form. We say, for instance, Ahmed is writing a story. Very simple example. Okay, so as we see it here, okay, so we said that we have to, let's say, apply. You have to determine the first step. We have to determine the parts of speech. In my draft, I can simply use my pencil and write abbreviations for the basic part of speech, which is subject, verb, and then object. Okay. Now, this sentence. What are the main parts of speech in this sentence? Ahmed, where is it? Ahmed is, yes, very good. It is a subject. And what about is writing? Right, is writing here. This is the verb. Write, verb write in present continuous. Verb write in present continuous. Good. Let's move on right now to a story. He's writing what? He's writing a story. So a story here. This is very good. This is the object. Okay, this is the object. Here we have one object. Okay, sometimes you may have certain verbs like give, like offer, like present, like, right, and all the synonyms, right? Have, let's say, these verbs, this kind of verbs might have, let's say, more than one object, which is of course two objects, direct objects and indirect objects. Good. Anyway, so these are the parts of speech, and this is the first step. Determine the part of speech. Great. Let's move on right now to number two. Step number two, after determining the parts of speech, you have to embark on the transformation. Start your sentence, your passive sentence, with what? With the, right, of course, the active object. Let us call it the active object, okay? With the active object. So the sentence right now will become, we say Ahmed, we say right? Sorry, we say a story. This is the beginning of the sentence. You have to write the article in capital. A story. Good. Step number three. Step number three right now, I have to move right now to the verb. I have to focus on the verb. We say that the verb here is in the present continuous. It is in the present continuous, okay? Good. So what I have to do right now is I have to think about the verb be. When thinking about the passive, we have to bear, let's say, the verb be in mind. Good. So the verb be should, the verb or the auxiliary here, in this situation it is called an auxiliary when it is used just as a helping verb to form another kind of sentence of tense or something like that, right? It is called here in this situation an auxiliary. So the auxiliary be must be in what? In the active tense, in the active verb tense. What I mean here by the active verb is the verb that you have, the main verb that you have, let's say, in the active form, right? You might have here in this situation, you might have, let's say, another verb in the sentence which is not important, which is not the basic, right? So you don't have to focus on that. You don't have to change it, right? You have to change only the main verb in the sentence. I give you an example. We say, for instance, Ahmed, right, is writing a story to learn English. Is writing a story to learn some English. Okay, so in this, or to express his feelings. So in this situation, to express or to write or anything like any other verb apart from is writing is not necessary. So you don't have to change it. You could just keep it as it is without any change. Now, third, we say the auxiliary be must be in the active verb tense. Now the sentence will become Ahmed is, yes, nous avons here, we have the verb, the main verb here is writing. Okay, so we have to know the tense. As we see it here before, previously, we said that we must learn the form of tenses in English. Is writing, to be plus verb being, this is present continuous. So here I say, to be, of course, in simple present plus verb being, this is present continuous. So we say is, to be in present continuous, we say is being. Right? Number four right now, we have to add, let's say, the past participle of the main verb here. We have writing, the verb is write, okay, with e at the end. So we have to add the past participle. As we said here before, okay, we say that the past participle of irregular verbs should be learned. We have seen the rule, so you have to learn the past participle of irregular verbs by heart. Good. So now, yes, we add right now the past participle of irregular, the past participle of the active verb. Okay, the past participle of the active verb. The sentence right now will become Ahmed, right, is or a story. Story is being, and then past participle we say writes. This is the verb base. In simple past we say wrote, and in the past participle we say written. Okay, written. Good. Now number 5. Right now, the last step in this transformation is to add. We add what we call the by phrase. And here, of course, we add a phrase if necessary. We add the by phrase if necessary. By phrase here, it means by plus what we call agents. Okay? By plus agent. Agent here, it is the active subject. It is the subject in the active verb. Okay? When we say by Ahmed in the passive form, Ahmed in the passive form is called an agent. Okay, now we say if necessary because sometimes by phrase might not be necessary. Okay, for instance, when you have here Ahmed, when you have he is writing a story, so you are not going to say a story is being written by he. Okay, so it's not correct. Okay, it's not acceptable anyway. And if you have here again, someone or somebody is writing a story. Again, somebody is not clear. It is a vague subject. Okay, it is it is ambiguous. So in this situation, you have to avoid the by phrase. Okay, so you can just add it here as nota bene here. Don't add the by phrase if the subject is not clear. if the subject is not clear. Not clear, it means if it is, for instance, in the form of subject pronouns, he, she, it, they, we, you, and so on, right? So when you have such subject pronouns, you don't have to say by he or by she. No, don't say that, right? And sometimes when you have some, indefinite and vague, let's say, subject words like someone, right? Somebody, uh, and then in general, sometimes we may say people. Okay, so it's not definite, so you don't have to say by people or by someone or by somebody, right? So if you have to focus, as we said here before, let's say on the objects in the situation. In the passive form, you have to focus on the objects, and then the passive form of the verb, which includes, of course, the verb to be and then the past participle of the verb. So I hope you have understood the lesson. So thank you so much for your understanding and attention. I will post right later on some more exercises to work for practice to work on. So I hope that you have clearly understood what we have dealt with today. Thank you very much for your attention.